Hi people, you're welcome to your well-being. Today we are looking at a matter on some warning signs that will tell you that you are eating too much sugar. And before we go into the content of today's video, I'd like us to have a fair idea of diabetes. We have the type 1 diabetes, the type 2 diabetes, and even as I go down, you will realize that we also have the type 3 diabetes. Of course, we also have the gestational diabetes that comes in a period of pregnancy. But today we are not going to deal with that. We want to talk about the other forms of diabetes apart from gestational diabetes. The type 1 diabetes, that is when people with this condition, the pancreas actually stops producing insulin. That organ has actually failed to produce the insulin that naturally is supposed to be produced so that it will put the glucose in the blood in check. So this organ is not actually performing its function. So what we can do to help this person is to let a person live the rest of his or her life on artificial insulin. The type 2 diabetes has actually got to do with the pancreas is actually producing insulin. So the insulin is not really receiving at the receptor level. Normally people with this type of condition or this type 1, I beg your pardon, this type 2 diabetes, normally a typical example is when you are talking to somebody and the person is not hearing you clearly. So you begin to, let your voice become higher and you keep shouting so that the person would hear. So the insulin is being released, but the receptor level is not achieved by the insulin. And so the organ keeps producing the insulin, it keeps producing, because it is not responding. Non-responsiveness is the factor here. It's not responding, and so it keeps shouting, it keeps giving the insulin, and so you realize that there's a lot of insulin in the blood or in the body of this person. And sometimes too, when the organ keeps producing and the receptor level is not achieved, it becomes discouraged and it stops producing insulin. So normally these people are having issues of higher insulin levels and lower insulin levels, and all has got to do with this factor that I'm talking about. So at the intro level, I talked about the type 3 diabetes. That is different from the gestational diabetes. And so we are going to go into that one. There are 4 parts of the body that are affected by this sugar. That is, of course, in the blood. We have the blood vessels, we have the nerves and the brain, we have the kidneys, and we have the eyes. That is why normally people with diabetes, they have problems with their sight. And so when there's that kind of imbalance in the brain, it can cause dementia and Alzheimer. And actually Alzheimer or dementia is actually classified as type 3 diabetes. And so the reason I'm making this video is because a vast majority of the population has stages of pre-diabetes. This is what we have to know. Pre-diabetes is actually what brings about diabetes. Just like the name goes, pre-diabetes. And we have to note that insulin resistance is actually a pre-diabetes, which actually comes from too much of insulin. And what causes too much of insulin is the too much of sugar that is in the blood. Now, let's look at something here. According to other health references like the American Health Association, you shouldn't exceed 69 teaspoons of sugar. Of course, that is an added sugar, not the one that we eat in food like the bananas and other stuff that contain sugar, but the added sugar, the one that you make tea and you have to pour some into the tea. We don't have to exceed, according to that reference, you don't have to exceed 69 teaspoons a day. But there's something very interesting that we have to know. It is realized that the average person is consuming at least 9 teaspoons. And the average teenager is also consuming at least 18.5 teaspoons of sugar. That is the added sugar a day. And there's something very interesting we need to know about that. Mathematically, we get to know that 1 teaspoon is equivalent to 4 grams of sugar. Now, there's a very interesting question that we need to ask ourselves. Don't most carbohydrates turn into sugar? Of course, eventually, they are going to be turned into sugar in the blood, except fiber. And so, what is shocking is that the amount of sugar that you are consuming right now that you have no idea about is something that we really have to look at it. The amount of sugar that the average person is supposed to be consumed, this one is not the added one that is in food, it's actually supposed to be 275 grams. That is equivalent to 68.8 teaspoons. And that is mind-blowing. So you see how the entire population of the world is heading full speed into diabetes. This is why we need to know the signs, the warning signs that, hey, you are eating too much sugar. The first sign that we need to look at is frequent urination. Now, the body is trying to get rid of too much of glucose because it's seeing it as poison. In the quest of the body getting rid of glucose, the body is not able to get rid of the glucose, so it now gets rid of glucose and more of water. Sometimes there's even no glucose, it gets rid of water, so there's that frequent urination. And this will tell you that it's a sign that you are eating too much sugar. So the second one we have to look at is drinking too much of water. It's very unusual. You sometimes have dry mouth, you have to be drinking a lot of water. The first symptom and the second symptom, you might get any of them. You might get one of them. You also become very hungry between meals. You finish eating and you feel like you have to eat again. This is actually a sign that you are eating too much of sugar. There are some people, their cells are always calling for food. They eat right now, they want to eat again. It's a sign that you are eating too much of sugar and you need to look at it. The next one that will tell you that you are eating too much of sugar is when you have blurred vision. Yeah, so you realize that you are beginning to see things 2, 3. Your vision is not becoming so clear, and sometimes you have to wash your face. It's sugar. You don't have any problem with your eyes. It's just that your sugar level has exceeded the limit. And it's telling you that reduce me. And so you have to pay attention to your body. This warning sign of eating too much sugar is a bit of psychological. One sign is that you become easily irritated, especially when you are hungry, when you have not eaten. You become easily irritated. And the moment you eat, you become so calm. It's a sign that you are eating too much sugar. Another sign that will tell you that you are eating too much sugar is fatigue. Despite you having enough sleep, you still realize that you still have a bit of tiredness in your body. You are very stiff up and down. It tells you that, hey, you are eating too much sugar. The last sign that will let you know that you are eating too much sugar is when you have genital itchiness. What we have to know is that candida lives on sugar. And so when you eat too much of sugar, especially this one, the females, the ladies I'm talking about, they can actually relate to that. Realize that when you eat too much sugar, you start having whitish discharge. And also you have itchiness. And that kind of thing happens. And it tells you that you are overeating sugar and you really have to be very careful. Sometimes there's also an anal itchiness that comes. And so when you're also a man, you also have a penile itchiness. It tells you that you are overeating sugar and you need to slow down. Thank you so much for making time to watch me on this channel. And if you find this content very interesting and resourceful, kindly subscribe to my channel. You can also share this video and put your comment below. Thank you so much and see you another time on this channel. Bye-bye.